Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines. And last time out, we built this waterfront construction site, but there was one massive oversight that a few of you pointed out that I made, which was not providing any portaloos for our construction workers. So I have indeed come in now and added some, so that we've got them kind of all around each of the little complexes. So yeah, just a couple of them dotted around here and there, including up by the condos as well. So all of our construction workers' toilet needs should now be nicely covered, I would say, with that. So thank you so much to those of you who did point that out. Massive oversight. And the other thing that I have also updated was a suggestion from Mr. SG, which was to add a crashed car into our car factory test track site over here. So I've just added in these skid marks showing everything all went a little bit wrong. And they went over the bank and crashed into the fence this side and burst into flames. That's what we're going for there. We're going to ignore the fact that it doesn't have any tyres on the car. They burnt off. That could be the law from that. But for today, we are going to turn our attention back to the town of Cadbury. So we're going all the way back to our little commuter town. And I have done a little bit of work on these suburbs on the outer areas here. So I've got rid of some of the road network, just clearing space for what we're going to be doing today. Added in some American eclectic housing here because we're coming away from the sort of older historical town centre this side and into more new modern housing. So yeah, I thought that these assets were appropriate for this area. Added in a little bit of commercial here, so we've got a garage, little shop, market, bank, post office, medical centre, you name it. There's not too much detailing around here, which is why I haven't shown it on camera. And then of course down this end as well, we've done another one of these modern housing estates like we did in a previous episode before. So yeah, it's all stuff that you have seen, which is why I did it off camera. And we do have a few more areas in Cadbury still to fill out, which I will probably do on a Discord stream sometime soon. So if you're not on the Discord, do come and join us. There is a link in the description below, and also on my YouTube homepage About tab as well. So do come and join us. But today we are going to be looking at this little area here, and something actually that we don't have yet in Auridon, which is the main university campus buildings. Now, of course, I'm not going to be putting in an actual university campus here. We have no demand for it, and I think that's just massive overkill for the town of Cadbury. But I technically am, but I'm going to be making use of these assets to make it feel like it's a prestigious boarding school is what I'm going to go for. So we're going to be using some inspiration from Google Earth today to try and format this, mixing in some other assets as well where appropriate. But that's the main aim. So let's firstly dive into Google Earth and have a little look at the inspiration for today's build. So here we are at Camford School in Dorset in the UK, and the reason why I've picked this is because it's on the edge of this nice like sort of small village here, which I feel like has sort of similar vibes to what we've been going for on the edge of Cadbury as well. Lovely little river flowing here as well, which of course we do have next to this area too, but we won't be doing the same orientation as this, but we're going to be stealing a lot of these ideas. So I love like these old buildings as well, which I think the university campus assets will fit quite nicely. We've also got mixed in like some really modern buildings here, like this little kind of, I have no idea what this school's like or what any of these buildings are. So someone could correct me if they do actually know, but that looks very much like a kind of, well, that says it's the concert hall there, but I was going to say that looks like a theatre there. Got a whole sports complex down this side. There's tons of space around here, lots of playing fields with little marks on them. We've actually got like a little tent and a big marquee on this lawn here. We've got this lovely landscaped little plaza with what looks like a fountain or a statue or something like that in the middle of it, which we'll be trying to replicate there. And it's got lovely road patterns flowing throughout, which we will make a lot of it pedestrianised, I think, or at least ban vehicles at a very minimum. Mixing in maybe some paths alongside the roads, and yeah, it comes down into very modern looking buildings actually down this side. Again, some interesting ones there. What looks like a little sports pavilion too. And then over this side we've got some, yeah, slightly more modern looking kind of housing. I don't know if that is actually part of the school or if that's something else, but it's adjoined to the complex anyway. And lots of interesting things that we can take for inspiration from this. Lots of little parking dotted throughout, which is, yeah, a nice little touch as well alongside the road. There's no like major big car park or anything like that here. Yeah, it just looks like next to the road parking in various different places. There is a bit of a car park around the sports centre, of course. That's to be more expected there. But yeah, I think we can take some inspiration from this and yeah, build ourselves a prestigious boarding school in Auridon. Okay, so back in Auridon, the first thing that we do need to do, of course, is plot the campus main building, the University Administration building. And in general, I'm kind of like, I'm not that thrilled that we have to have this main building, because I don't know, I think this is a little bit grand just for a boarding school. But I think we're going to use it and kind of repurpose it as a sort of theatre or something like that. That's what I'm thinking this looks like. So from there, we'll just, of course, draw out our campus district. So there we go, we've got that in, and the building that I want to use actually as our main kind of entrance building is the School of Law, because it does have this sort of historical look about it, which I really quite like. It is maybe a little bit big again, but it looks pretty grand and fancy, like it could be like the main kind of place for classrooms and teacher rooms and all that rest of it at a nice prestigious boarding school that we are going for here. Let's actually just move that a little bit away from the road there, and I'm going to use a parking lot road just so we can have some parking in next to it, and we'll use the nicely maintained tarmac for this. And we're just going to draw out, so I think I'm actually going to go halfway in between these and just draw out a little marker there, halfway in between these, and then we're going to do a really nice curve round. Something like that, but I am going to use move it just a little bit to extend out this curve and just make it slightly nicer, I think. So we just want to draw both of these up and then try and snap them into a pretty symmetrical pattern. And of course then trim off these little extra bits like that. And then of course we do want a little bit of brush tool just to tidy up some of these surfaces around here. So let's go in to find it. And we will find our brush tool in there and just tidy up these little holes, and we could probably do with a slightly larger size than that. So like that. So I think that gives us a nice front to our building. Let's actually just spin the sun so we can see it. There we go. And what I will do in detailing as well is come in and add some car parking spaces into there to frame that nicely. Now around this, I do actually want some pedestrian roads. Now I know you cannot put campuses on pedestrian roads, however, but what I have discovered in testing this is that actually campuses is only the main building that can't go on pedestrian roads. All other buildings seem to operate absolutely fine with just pedestrian roads. So we'll test this theory and make sure that it works now, but in testing that definitely seemed to be the case. So what I'm going to do is actually use these unmarked 2-lane suburban streets which do have parking up them, and we're going to kind of draw out a little entrance way for our main building here so that it is actually on a road. You'll see now, if we relocate this and put this on the pedestrian road, yeah, it cannot be placed on that road. And even if we put it here and then later upgraded this road, it's still not going to like it. But if we upgrade that road, it's absolutely fine. Like, this building doesn't complain, and we do have notifications on. Yeah, you see those people are very unhappy about something there. But yeah, that building doesn't like it. This building's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do is create a little road network that this one can sit on. So I'm going to tuck it in up next to the road that we've got going down the back there. And as mentioned, we'll use these suburban streets here because they're a little bit less marked. People can park up them quite nicely. And we'll draw out a little bit of road access for the front of this building. I'm just going to draw that all the way down so we can line this up nicely. Yeah, I want that coming in like that. So you can come in and round ultimately and into this, yeah, kind of theatre looking bit. I think actually what would be quite nice here is if we had a little bit of parking. So maybe we do actually upgrade this to a parking lot road like that. Although we do want that segment to go the other way. So let's just draw this in again. And of course now it's not going to nicely snap to my node that I've got in the middle there. And we'll draw it in like that and we'll fix it. Let's just draw that in again. Yeah, make sure we've got the parking on the right side of the street there so that it makes a bit more sense. And we'll do the straight parking for this, just like that. And then with this building as well, let's use a bit of bob on this because I can't stand those vanilla alders or the little vanilla bushes. So we're going to remove those. And as well, I think with the pathways round it, I'm not a massive lover of how that looks. So let's use a network multi-tool with the unlock segment function, and we're going to unlock all of these paths and just remove them actually. Well, there is one that joins all the way through there. In fact, we might unlock them and upgrade them to a different type of path. Just something that we can maybe put some tiling around and make it a little bit more subtle, because I'm not a huge fan of that in this raw state right now. Okay, so then the key feature that we did see behind the main entrance building was that really large plaza type area. So let's just go ahead and put that in. And of course I'm using the wrong road type there. Let's stick with our bluestone, which I think is nicest in the Auridon environment, in the biome here. We'll add that in like that, and then we'll start to draw out a little bit more of a grid here. Let's just turn off road guidelines so that we can get to the lengths that we want. And then I think down this end as well, because we will need some buildings which want road access on it, let's actually just finish this off by drawing round the regular road here. So cars can drive in, park on this bit, and they can park all the way up this suburban street as well. And down there, but it's more of a formulated car park right outside what I'm going to call the theatre rather than the main building there. So that works pretty nicely. So let's see what other university assets we can use in here. And I definitely think the auditorium looks pretty suitable and aligns really nicely actually to the edge of this road here. We just need a little bit of move it just to get that perfectly centralised. But again, when you're coming down this car park, you can go ahead and see that building there, which I think is quite nice. Let's just draw it back a tiny, tiny touch. And of course, we'll do some bob work on that when we come to the detailing as well, to get rid of those horrendous trees. And then over in this area, what I would quite like is a sort of sports area, I'm thinking. So I think the university gymnasium would be quite appropriate for that. So let's go ahead and place this in on this corner here. Again, it's got car parking spaces on it, which I don't love by any means. So we will definitely be bobbing those off. And then I think in here, what would be nice next to this is to add in some tennis courts and the such like. So let's just go to our parks. We've already bobbed these pretty heavily. But what we can do is do a really nice row of tennis courts here. I'm thinking, yeah, we can just about squeeze 4 in there. And we need to do a lot of surface work around these. So we will be doing that come the detail in time-lapse to help this kind of fit in a little bit better rather than all that patchy concrete that we've got going on at the moment. And then as well, on top of that, I think we will add in 2 basketball courts here too. So let's actually just spin those round so they match each other, and that should be close enough to the road that it will still connect, I'm hoping. Yes, which it will, so that's good. So we can have both of those in there. Now, of course, we're going to need a surface point if we're going to start putting in assets like that. So let's just for now add in, we're not going to need anything more than just the small service point, which does both the cargo and the garbage all in one. So let's just add that over here. And then we can come back to that in a second. But what we will need is a little bit of a pedestrian district. I'm just going to trail around the outside and then down into this area here. So I'm just going to fill that out like this. We're going to hope that this works quite nicely. I am actually going to put a building in there, so I'll get rid of that. Get rid of this section here. And then we can just join the campus back up. And these districts are going to be very messy until we sort them all out close to the end, which of course we will do. And then opposite that as well, I think what would be nice is to add the swimming pool. So we're just going to use the community pool asset for this, right up next to the gym there. I think is quite a nice spot for that. We've got the gym, lots of sports, tennis courts, basketball, swimming. That needs to be inside the pedestrian district. So let's just draw that out a little bit. Yes, and we can fit that in while still keeping that as university, which is great. And then, of course, around this, what we will do is add in playing fields and the such like over here. Going back to our main plaza, actually, just thinking about it, one asset that would be really nice for this is the university fountain. We obviously want to make sure this is centralised really nicely, which it is right there. And we're just going to draw this back into the middle. And again, we'll do some nice tiling work around this to help this blend in, and have a little look back at Google Earth to remind myself exactly what was in this area. But we want to keep it pretty open, so I think that fountain is a really nice centerpiece, and obviously will add to the attractiveness of this campus. We're talking about actual game functionality as well for that. And then down this side, the library fits in really quite nicely here. I want to leave quite a lot of breathing room, because one thing I did notice on Google Earth is that there's lots of kind of green space around the campus. We definitely want to keep that nice and open, and I'm thinking with this one, what we will do is just move that up so that steps line up to the centre of this building here. And of course we're going to be bobbing off those trees, so we won't forget about that at all. But then we've got nice green space here where we can do some flower bed detailing or some trees and natural. I think there's quite a lot of trees around the campus we looked at on Google Earth, so probably will be quite a lot of trees in this area as well, as per the rest of Auridon. And then like we saw on Google Earth, I think we'll add in a couple of smaller buildings here. So we do have the Maths Club, which I think would go nicely here. We need to sort out the terrain a little bit. And we also have the Chess Club, yes, this one, which both of these I think will sit in nicely here. Let's just make sure that they are at the height of our little road network there. And of course we need to do a bit of detailing and some terraforming around there just to smooth out that landscape. I think those will sit in quite nicely. Again, Bob needed to rescue us from the horrendous vanilla older trees there. Of course we'll come on to that. Then this spot, the other building I really like is this media lab. I think this would go quite nicely in there again, just sticking with that red brick theme. Got some lovely nice layers to it, opportunities to do some detailing at the back of it too. Let's just make sure it's all on this level and we'll terraform around it if we need to afterwards. Now, one thing I do know that boarding schools have, at least in the UK, is what's called like houses. So I think people board in like different houses. So that's what I'd like to do here, is do a few different residential blocks dotted around the district. So let's actually start by using the university dormitories, because I think that, I mean, they obviously look like, like dormitories. I think they're quite appropriate for this area as well. So we're just grabbing our pedestrian road and create a little block for this. Let's draw that on a little bit further. How much space do we need? We need about 7 units. So we'll go 7 units further on from this and draw our road across here. A little bit longer than we need just for now. And then we'll do like a nice little back-to-back pattern, I think here will fit in quite nicely for this particular boarding house. And just to support that as well, I think let's add in the university groundskeeping just on this end bit there. And then also actually a cafeteria I think would be nice here. And that will just help to give them somewhere to go and eat. And it is right by the carriageway, but this road is so quiet. I'm kind of not too concerned with the big fancy boarding school being situated right next to this, because the noise pollution from this is probably less than most of the like regular collector roads. In fact, around Auridon, this highway is obviously on the outskirts, so it's just really not really used, this section of it. Anyone going straight through the city quite often takes the highway, which runs pretty much through it like that, or, you know, down from those different angles. It's very few people who are actually taking this route round the outside here. We've got that in, and I think what we will do is change up some of these roads for different paths and the such like later on. We'll definitely bob off those car parking spaces when it comes to it too. And then here, let's actually go up the hill a little bit to create our next boarding house, and we can do some path access up from here so it's quicker for people to get round rather than walking on the main kind of roadways here. Let's just make sure that's aligned to terrain heights here. That's a little bit higher. It is quite a reasonably steep slope, but it will do for now. And then we'll bring across just a little segment up here. I think something about here should be fine for that. And what we'll do here is actually go ahead and add in another university cafeteria. Let's just make sure again that we're getting to a good terrain height here. We want this area to be reasonably level and appropriate for that, so that will do nicely. Let's actually just grab level terrain right now and smooth this out a little bit, this small section here, just so we can add in some residences for them. We'll do lots of detailing around this to help it all blend in, of course, afterwards. Let's go ahead and actually add in some path access, I think, for this section here. Oh my goodness, not like that. I'm forgetting that. Forgetting how to use paths. So that'll give them access to the cafeteria. And then in this section, let's actually just put in some high density residential. And I'm going to go back to some residences, some assets that we used actually in the main FewU University in Auridon, which are these little blocks, which I think correlate themselves quite nicely. Like this could be a sort of sixth form area of the boarding school is what I'm envisaging here. We obviously need to paint these, and we also do clearly need to give them a location within the pedestrian area too. So let's make sure that we do that. I think we'll add in a fourth one actually over here. So let's just spin that round and we can add that up alongside here. But I think this creates quite a nice little boarding block for this area here. Slightly smaller than the other dormitories. Imagine if it's sixth form, then there'll be less students in this particular house. And we've got some nice opportunities for some nice detailing in the middle of this as well to create a little courtyard community type area in there. So that'll be fun to do. Let's just go back to the districts then, and what we're going to have to do is kind of pull this somehow round here and up into this area as well so that they are contained in that pedestrian district. We want to keep this as university on that path there. Make sure this one's happy. We've got 2 houses in there. I think we definitely want to have a third one as well. So let's go back over to this corner, and again, to give it a different vibe and to give it a different look, what I'm actually going to do is grab a little bit of our liberal arts university district. So we're just going to grab this on the smaller setting, and I'm going to drag this all the way through Auridon and down into this area, because we can't put the liberal arts buildings actually in the university campus, which I think is actually quite an annoying feature if I'm completely honest. So yeah, this is all we can do for this one. We've got our little liberal arts campus section there, so let's just go ahead and delete out our little connector snake like that. And then what we can do is place in these assets in here. So let's actually just grab, I think we'll just grab a university path for this for now to make sure it's actually in this district, and then we can locate them exactly how we want to afterwards. These dorms are absolutely lovely. I love these assets, so I'm very, very happy to use them whenever we can. I think what we'll do here is try and create kind of an interesting shape for them. So I think we'll go something along the lines of this, because these assets do fuse very, very nicely indeed, which is exactly what we did obviously in the main FewU campus too. There we go, we've got nice windows in the corner there. It kind of generally works all the way around. We've got the back door access around the back there too. So yeah, we can do it like that. So yeah, let's grab these buildings and let's just make sure that we're orientating them how we want to here. So we can actually, I think we'll just trim this back a little bit. And we'll have these sit, I think, yeah, back on up to the highway like this. And potentially we could even add in a third. So let's just plop that in there. Can we get this to work on a diagonal fusing basis? It's a little bit dodgy at the back there, so what we will do is make sure that that back corner is exposed like that, and then we'll just check the front windows, which is okay there actually. So yeah, that sort of works. We've got 3 in a nice interesting shape there, which again creates another boarding house for us. And then let's go ahead and just give them some path access for now so that they are happy. Yeah, they're pleased with that. And then I think, you know, just looking around Google Earth, there's lots of different types of buildings in this. So I do want to merge in some more modern style of buildings. And one of them is actually a very odd choice, but the Hearts of Korea crematorium is a really, really surprisingly nice building. So I would like to add this in here. I think it's got, yeah, a nice kind of effect to it. And I think next to what we're going to call is the theatre, this could be sort of like the arts area, I'm imagining, down this end. So we can have that in like that. And then I think we'll add in a couple of the smaller buildings again from the campus down here. So just these clubs, 2 more of these clubs, I think, the chess clubs and the maths club again. Just again as little extra side buildings that we have down here. And of course the other building as well that I did want to incorporate into this is the historical library, which I think again is like a totally different style of building, but it was very, very mixed. So we could place it here next to the sports areas. And actually I am thinking what this would be nice as is a little bit like a cricket club or something like that. So if we position it out here, we can have a big playing field out the back side, this side, which we will come on and obviously do in the detailing. So let's just grab, I think we'll grab the 1 unit concrete road for this, and we'll just bring out a very small segment like this leading up to it. And what I will probably do is try and hide that as far as possible. We could actually even make this rural road. That'd be a little bit skinnier. Give us a little track up to the end there. Yeah, I think I prefer that. So I've just switched the orientation. I think that's a little bit better because then it will sit nicely out to our like cricket field maybe that we'll have out this side. So we'll do that in the detailing time lapse coming up very soon. I think that gives us a nice basis to work with. Again, we'll have more sports fields or open space out this side. Probably actually just some grassy area there where they could do different sports on rather than marking out the sports. But we're starting to get a shape here. We've got 3 different boarding houses in, lots of different buildings for various different educational needs, smaller, larger, some modern, intertwined within there, and lots of sports facilities. So I think the last thing I do want to talk about before we do detailing is, sub-building usage. So I'd really like to get a big athletics track into this. But the trouble is, if we put in the main athletics track here, it is absolutely huge. It's got this massive stadium. Like, I feel like it's a little bit inappropriate just for a high school boarding school style thing. We're going to sub buildings and we say, I think it's track, isn't it? We have got the sub buildings for part of it without the stadium. This is what I would like to use here. I'm just going to use a road as a guideline. Let's use this one. So we can plop in this one and then this other end, which will sit in right up next to it. And then what we can do is mirror that the opposite side. So it does look a little bit repeated in terms of what's in the middle of it, but it is going to work. Let's just close that up so that the track is complete there. We'll grab these other 2 sides of the asset. Then what that gives us is a playing field without a stadium, which I'm quite fond of the idea of. I also want to make sure everything is super level. We've got so many bushes on this. We really keep that. I'm definitely going to bob these off. I'm not a big fan of those. We must have kept them in our other athletics track, which really surprises me. There we go, we've got our athletics track in. Lots of detailing obviously needed around that to bring it together, and we can bring in some more access to a larger car parking area, I think, with access to the track down that side. Then the final piece of the puzzle actually is something I haven't added in yet. Let's just move these rocks out of the way, because I feel like this area is probably a little bit too rocky to add this in at the moment without any movement. But I would like to add in a very small little sailing club, because I know a lot of these boarding schools have like rowing clubs or something like that. And because we've got access to this lovely river along here, I think it would be appropriate to have some kind of boat club or something like that incorporated into the campus. And we do have this futsal club building. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this looks pretty cool and looks like it could definitely be a little boat kind of clubhouse. That's what I'm going to be calling this here. Let's bring that down like that, and I think what we will use is actually just dirt roads to access this. So we'll go like that and we'll just join it into the back of here. Again, I'm probably going to change up this road come the detailing time lapse anyway. But that gives us a nice start for this. And then from that, what we can do is build out a little boat marina using some of our assets that we are already very familiar with in Auridon. So some of the dock assets, like these ones, I think would go quite nicely here. If we just lined these up in a little row, we could just dock just a few boats, a few sailing boats or otherwise rowboats, something like that, just along this water's edge here. Of course, again, lots of detailing needed around this, particularly the terrain is looking pretty awful right now. So let's actually just go ahead and smooth that right out before we do anything else. Okay, so I think that is now time for detailing on this campus, and there is a lot to do in this to make it feel realistic and bring it alive. We want to add some really nice landscape touches to it, particularly this big plaza here around what we're calling the theatre at least. Lots of detailing needed for different sports fields and open communal common areas, study areas and the such like. Detailing needed around all of the boarding houses, of course, as well, and definitely the boat club and athletics track. So we'll jump right into that now, and I'll be right back. Okay, so there we go. We have our prestigious boarding school campus. I think it's come together okay with the addition of all of the different sports fields. Let's just start at the entrance. So I have used our old familiar Auridon natural hedge pattern to frame our good old dude on a horse statue. I'm thinking it's maybe the founder of the school. We'll come to the name in just a second. Yeah, liking how this circular car park has turned out. Again, I've got one of these yellow spaces, which I have absolutely no idea what that is about. I have also added in transit lines just to add, so we do have one now. Let's just take a little quick overview before we go into the rest of the detailing. But we do now have a bus, so we're utilising again our bus station in Cadbury Town Centre, and we've now got a bus that comes around past Flying Duck Park and down into the campus. And I have also actually put in another bus line which goes around this little suburb here. It does take them around the town centre a little bit, so there's a couple more stops in that sort of central area and then a few stops around in the suburb here. Just very simple backwards and forwards stops there, so we're pretty well covered in terms of bus lines across most of Cadbury now, and definitely means that the school is nicely hooked up, which is what we want. And yeah, we've got quite a few people using it, as you can see, like just queuing up here. Here comes the bus, yay. But let's get back to the detailing. So of course I have bobbed off all of these buildings. There are no car parking spaces around any of them, apart from the library, where I've just kept these couple next to the road because I thought that that was appropriate there. We've also, of course, bobbed off the horrendous vanilla alders. I've done things like just added in a few little benches in this middle section here and a nice jacaranda, which I thought went quite well. We've, of course, put in our central plaza exactly like we saw at the Camford School on Google Earth. I've changed it up a little bit, so that was sunken, obviously, with the stairs. We've not done that here. I have put in this little hedge border, though, which I quite like, which is a very tall hedge, which I've sunk down into the ground, but I think it gives the academic fountain a really nice, framing there, particularly with the zoo path around it as well. And then at the back, we have put in our homemade rugby pitches. Now, I am not a fan of rugby, I'll be honest, so I've no idea if this is actually correct. I've noticed those posts aren't even lined up, so I'll fix that. But yeah, this is what I found out on Google, is the layout of the pitch, so I'll let you guys tell me if this is correct or not. But there we go, that's what we've done there, with a few little bleachers as well, which I thought was quite a nice touch. We've got so many seagulls around here, I need to hide them again. Then onto this area, I actually did decide to just pavement over all of this because I felt like that was the most appropriate surface I've got. We've got loads of like students playing tennis and basketball, which I absolutely love. Just a few little benches and bins dotted around the outside there. Nothing much actually really done around the community pool. And then of course we come on to what I've done is put in a cricket pitch. So I originally put in gravel in the middle, but I wasn't sure if it was meant to be grass or gravel. I've gone for this because it looks a little bit nicer. And we do have an invisible path as well, which runs through here, so students can walk across if they need to. And as well with the roads, I did upgrade this one to a driving road. So we've got one road that they can drive throughout the whole campus, which comes down that side. And then, of course, this one, which comes down this side as well. And then the rest of it is just pedestrian streets. And these campus buildings are working absolutely fine on pedestrian roads. So it is only that main building that you need to have up against a regular road. Yeah, nothing much here again. We just kept open space like we saw on Google Earth. And then with these little layers of height, we have just added in our old familiar Auridon rock detailing here. Nice little curvy pathway leading up to the top to these little boarding houses here. Again, we've just put in a little picnic bench communal garden area out the middle of it, but left it very plain and simple there. And then nothing too much down the back here. Of course, we have transitioned this into gravel road to come down to our, was it futsal building here? We've turned this into what I would like to call a rowing club. It's kayaks, but we're going to say it's rowing. Got a few little water bags as well lying around, which I thought was a nice little touch. But they are ready to go out onto the river. They look like they should be floated away. And then lots of kayaks, of course, backed up around the club there. So I thought that was quite a nice little touch on the edge of the school campus. I know quite a lot of posh schools do some rowing, so yeah. And then with the athletics track, now I actually decided to swap this out really last minute and draw in my own track because I felt like the other one was just major overkill. Like, I'm not sure a high school, boarding school would have like such an astroturfed athletics track in there. I felt like this was a bit more appropriate just on the grass with painted lines. I did a little throw-in area and a little kind of sand area as well where they could do long jump or something like that, I think. And of course we've got a little clubhouse as well over here, which I really like how this sits up against this road, which sort of cuts through the campus here. Yeah, it looks like a very old building that's been there a little while, but a nice little clubhouse for the athletics team or whoever's congregating there. Again, if people coming to watch an athletics event, there's a little burger van for them as well. Lots of students walking down here. And just a couple of little car parks as well with benches overlooking the track from here. And I did add in a little pathway down, tried to cover up the end of it a little bit with some grass decals, but I'm not too sure how well that's worked. And actually, I'm just noticing now that's really sunk into the ground. So let's just grab this node using move it, and we'll just hit page up again with move it selected and just bring that up a little bit. That feels a little bit better. But yeah, car parks up here, slightly bigger one hidden away there with the roundabout access from this side. And coming down the front, we have added in farm fence as we come down the hill, down towards the entrance. So yeah, I really like how this sort of looks from the street level now as well. More of this hedge patterns along here beside what I'm calling the theatre. Nice kind of repeated pattern of alders again down here, but not really going on. Just a little bit of surface painted to draw out paths and make these buildings feel like they're actually included and yeah, meant to be there. Lots of concrete around this building. Little gardens. Then coming onto this campus again, I've just tidied everything up with a bit of surface fencing around the back there, a couple of benches out the back and a couple of benches in this little hedged garden area at the front here as well. But that is it. So coming on to the name for our boarding school, I have named it after one of our Patreons, and that is Boats11. Boats, thank you so much for all of your support. I really appreciate it. And I hope you like your boarding school. There is a boat element to it with the rowing club as well. But there we go. There we go. Thank you so much for being a Patreon. And there is a link below if you do fancy also supporting the channel by a Patreon as well. There's a few little extra perks for you there. And not only Patreon, you can also use my instant gaming link if you want to support the channel as well. There's a huge amount of games at really discounted prices. You can also pick up the campus DLC, which you can see me using here if you fancy doing a similar build from there at a really great price. And it does help to support the channel just a really little bit. But for today, that is going to be it. So if you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really appreciated. And I did just realise at the end there that I had left my ultimate level of detail on after taking screenshots for my Patreons. Totally forgot to turn it off, so the frame rate was probably absolutely terrible. Right then, we filled up with a load of props in this episode. But that is all from me for today. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you again next time. Bye bye.